Good morning and welcome to WNHH-FM's Dateline New Haven. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to check in on the story behind the headlines that make our community tick. Bob McCormick is in the studio with station manager Harry Drost to comment on some of the commenters on some of the big stories we've had recently in New Haven. The second half of this hour, we're going to have two candidates from the Working Families Party in Hamden coming to talk about the big issues coming up this campaign season. So we got a two-part show today. There's going to be some continuity because the people coming in were active in protests in Hamden yesterday. There will be a topic, a subject, and we'll get right into the comments. We do this periodically on WNHH. We read the comments from the New Haven Independent, then comment on what they had to say. Bob, we're going to now read the comments the commenters put. The first story we're looking at is protests by some in New Haven and Hamden about the fact that Hamden has not yet fired a police officer who fired his gun 13 times into a car with two unarmed people at 4 a.m. in New Hallville. Almost killed him. Thankfully didn't, but sent one to the hospital. He's now been arrested, charged with a felony assault, and protesters believe he should be fired immediately. The town says they have to follow some procedures to go through before they do that. What did Memory Man comment, Bob McCormick?
Should they not be protesting loudly in Hamden? Why should New Haven be honored by hosting this protest that is protesting the unrestrained bullet antics of a Hamden police officer? And the other bullet guy is a Yale cop. Should they not be at the Yale PD headquarters or the house of the president of Yale asking for a friend?
All right, Harry Jones, can you skip ahead to the third comment from Average Taxpayer?
Eaton deserves to be fired, and then some. Not sure why anyone would go after Yale officer Pollock. He arrives on the scene to bullets flying his way, and how was he to know they weren't coming from Witherspoon?
All right, 1644 wrote, he introduced the name Peel, P-E-L-E, who was the father of modern policing in England. And when we're having these debates, his original ideas of what police should do get brought up because they're completely contrary to our modern model of using guns and arresting people. It's very interesting. It's all anyway. He writes 1644 writes, unfortunately, U.S. police forces reject Peelian principles, notably to recognize always that the power of the police to fulfill their functions and duties is dependent on public approval of their existence, actions, and behavior, and on their ability to secure and maintain public respect. U.S. police have set themselves apart from the communities they are supposed to serve, and the tactics and procedures and personnel policies are designed for the benefit of the police, not public safety or public support. It's also worth noting that the new Yale police contract contains terms making it more difficult to fire officers. The pro-union alders and activists like Wendy Hamilton supported the Yale police in their recent contract negotiations on this matter. Bob McCormick, what did Dad 101 write about firing a Hamden police officer?
I don't have any issue with anyone saying Hamden should terminate the Hamden officer. As a matter of fact, the state should just revoke his certification. Then it would be a non-issue. But the Yale officer fired his weapon in response to being shot at. He couldn't see who was firing. He was hit by shrapnel. Harry, someone named Someone Who Reads commented on the story. What did Someone Who Reads write?
I am thoroughly disgusted by the critics' call. What happened to due process and the fact that the officer is supposed to have a jury trial and is innocent until proven guilty? Why are these people tainting the potential jury pool? Out of all of the many speakers, how many have done their due diligence and reviewed the police union contract of the town of Hamden? There may be language in the Hamden police contract that may not allow immediate termination. I would strongly advise that instead of igniting public discord, one should not only be apprised of the situation, but also be educated on all of the contractual and legal issues and legal protocols that must be followed before one starts screaming about termination of anyone's livelihood.
All right, so we've heard some commenters weighing in. The story's continuing. There's a protest Monday in Broadway in New Haven. Then last night, in answer to that first commenter, there was a protest in Hamden last night. We're going to hear a lot about that in the second half of this hour, and we hear candidates from the Working Families Party in Hamden. But Bob McCormick, what do you think when you read these contexts? A lot of issues to tease out here.
A lot of issues. it really is the job of the police commission in Hamden to fire Officer Eaton. The mayor could maybe make a recommendation, but it's not his job to
Right, the
fire
demand
this
last night
officer.
was to ask the mayor to make that recommendation.
And he seems to be backing away a bit from me. This is just my opinion.
Mhm.
He's backing away, and he's really leaving it up to the commission.
Yeah, Harry Gross, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I think he's allowing the process, to move along. Just let it go at his own pace, right? Because they have. It's like the person said. If you look at, these union contracts and everything, there's procedure that needs to be followed, right? And the mayor's allowing it. I know everybody wants the mayor to come out and make, statements right away. Some of them, uneducated, uninformed statements.
Well, the mayor
But
did
that's not the way
say
stuff
back in
works.
April that he felt that he saw enough here to think the guy shouldn't be
Well,
Hamden cop. But he's saying he
yeah,
got to the
I
person.
see enough, but I'm a civilian, right?
For now, we're going to nominate you to one of these boards.
From the outside looking in, of course, you want the person fired, but there are procedural, steps that need to be taken.
All right.
I still think this, Paul. An officer that has to fire 13 times at the car on Argyle Street back in April, he needs to be fired. There's no doubt about it.
See, I don't think there's any doubt he's going to be fired. The question is how and when. And John Valleca, who's a retired New Haven cop, assistant police chief, and he was a police chief elsewhere, he was on the radio the other day. He surprised me and Harry. I thought he was going to say, wait, go through the union process. He said that, in fact, it's really separate from the criminal process, that often you have to wait for criminal process because you're worried that you need for your internal police investigation to interview the cop. And the cop has a right to say, well, if I talk to you, you can't use this at trial. Valleca's point was this is a different kind of case because you had slam dunk video evidence. Because you had slam dunk video evidence, he thought it was important for the police to fire him immediately, like in that 5-day window, and then not make the deal where, like, give him a chance to talk, but not make the deal that it's under the terms that you then don't have it used against you in a criminal case, because he thought there were enough other procedures that were violated. So every case is different.
Now here's what my thinking is: will he do jail time on those charges?
That's a big question.
That is a very big question right now.
And the prosecutors are going to want it.
Prosecutors,
I think it's a good question because I think prosecutors are going to want to make a deal because juries are very biased toward police officers. And they're going to, as it is, there was no way they were going to charge the Yale cop because whether you thought he should have been charged or not, there was no way they were going to win a case on that one. There was no way you couldn't charge this officer because what he did was so out of bounds. But the question still remains: are they going to believe they can get that jury verdict, or will they let them trade for no? So to be continued, and we'll be continuing the second half of this hour of Dateline New Haven when we switch to Dateline Hamden and have two candidates for the Working Families Party in the news everywhere these days. The Working Families Party in our office at WNHH-FM, your home for community radio, 103.5 FM, live stream, NewHavenIndependent.org. We're commenting on the commenters. We're doing it on 78 rather than 33 today because we're doing two shows. Hope you guys don't mind.
I remember 78s now. I was a little boy when they were 78. And 33 were the albums.
Yeah, and then 45 were the singles.
Yes, they were
why,
the
Harry,
singles.
why did they have 78s? I thought that's if you wanted to speed it up like Alvin and Chipmunks, like you're on crack.
The impression was, to me, they had 78s. Was there were kids stuff on it.
Oh.
Like kids rhymes and like Alvin and the Chipmunks.
But why did that need to be on 78? Why
because
can't they
they wanted to
fast?
speed it up.
Okay. Next story. Carol Burks. It finally came to the end. Boy, drama's in New Haven. They reached a settlement trying to get rid of the school superintendent for basically the day she got here. It kept dragging out. They finally reached a deal. And then she wanted to sign it. Then the last second she could sign it without getting fired. She signed a deal to leave. $175,000 settlement for her to leave before her contract is up. What did people have to say about it? Challenge wrote. Remember, we're doing commenting on the commenters. These are commenters to articles in the New Haven Independent. Challenge wrote, yet another poor decision. Time to end the constant payouts at taxpayer expense. Bob, what did Billy write?
Billy wrote, when should we expect the resignation of the remaining BOE Board of Education members who voted to hire Burks in spite of significant public resistance? By my calculation, only one remains after Mayor Harp vacates her seat. Am I missing someone? You can't rail against wasteful spending out of one side of your mouth and support a $160K payout using our money out of the other.
CTDDW, I have no idea what that means, wrote, a big part of what she did was get rid of people and pay them off. Karma. Harry, what did Thomas Alfred Payne
Some
write?
initials, Paul, of somebody's name.
Yeah, who do you
CT
think
would
is
be Connecticut, and then
Department of
DDW.
Dumbworks. Yeah. Harry,
Department of Dumbworks.
Harry, what you got for Thomas Alfred Payne?
The New Haven Public Schools finds itself in this current situation because the process to select the last superintendent, Dr. Burks, was severely subverted and politicized. The best experienced and qualified candidate for the job was rejected in favor of a person who never served in the capacity of a superintendent or assistant superintendent. Merit, experience, credentials, and common sense and decency were trumped by politics and a power grab last time. That must never ever happen again. The board dismissed the wisdom and recommendations, pleas, protests, petitions, and demands of the public not to select Dr. Burks. That too must never ever happen again. Parents, students, teachers, and other members of the community had advocated for the most qualified and experienced person. Obviously, the public was proven right and the board was proven wrong. 2 former and 1 present member of the board have publicly admitted that their vote for Burks was a terrible mistake. Only 1 current member who voted for Burks has not publicly repudiated that vote. To err is human. To err again in the same fashion is foolishness.
All right, thanks a lot. We'll cut him there. Jill the Pill wrote, this was absolutely the right decision. Our students and teachers deserve careful, competent leadership, not distraction, self-promotion, intimidation, politics, and theatrics. Last night's board meeting had a completely different atmosphere, even the challenging stuff. Bob, why don't you read the beginning of it? Atticus Shrugged, and he is one of my favorite names, Atticus Shrugged.
Is this the bookstore Atticus? Isn't there an Atticus?
Well, you see, Atlas Shrugged is the famous mythic thing. It was the title of the Ayn Rand and the god Atlas. The world on his shoulders, that god, and that was the myth that was used in the title of the book by Ayn Rand, the libertarian. So, but he's shrugging Atticus as though Atticus, or maybe Atticus Finch. I don't know.
This firing was sadly not about performance, nor was Garth Harry's. Indeed, perhaps for myriad reason, test scores have continued to go up under both leaders. I won't include Dr. Mayo as he was installed as interim. Had Garth never been wrongly pushed out, we wouldn't have ended up here. But Dr. Joyner and others wanted to see him out, most likely because he was white, and also because he did not come up in that educational ranks, even though NHPS had improved under his stewardship. Dr. Burks came in during an inevitable circumstance. The state cut school funding, and the Board of Education has had constant physical limitations. Are there things we should have done better? Yes, but trust, there are things everyone could do better at their job. Let you, without fault, cast the first stone.
All right, and then Beyond Discussion wrote, besides our city finances, there's no area of city government more disarray than our city schools. This outgoing superintendent was forced on the community and a disaster from day one. Under a dysfunctional Board of Education, Burks leaves with a hefty buyout and a school system in shambles. Thank God a new mayor and change is coming. So that's what people had to say, range of opinions. Carol Burks is out. New era begins. How do we analyze what happened, Bob McCormick?
Well,
Right
we paid
decision.
her, what, $175,000?
Right, basically what she
I
would
told
earned if she
somebody
stayed with
that.
theirs.
They went, wow, to me last night. Then I got a call last night, and somebody said to me, that's not a lot of money.
In fact, the payouts that took to her predecessor were big. People who left because of her tenure were big. I felt she never got a chance. I wouldn't have picked her. The community didn't want her. She was kind of
I would
charter-oriented.
have kept her.
But she never had a chance to do her
There were two
job.
things that happened. And the most recent thing was the school bus
Oh, that was a
debacle
mess. That was a
with
mess.
the parents. That was, oof. And then there was the teachers
Mhm.
and whoever else she wanted to, lay off, reassign. And, where does this leave us now? Does the acting superintendent,
Eileen Tracy.
yeah, take how long? And she's, I heard, even going to apply for the permanent position.
Oh, really? That's interesting. She's in her 70s. She's very steady hand.
Yeah, I think they should go inside. She would be a good choice.
I think he's got to go inside.
But let me tell you something. I was at that very first meeting when they voted for Burks to come in. That was a pretty wild meeting because there was that altercation between
one board member
Ed Joyner and Darnell Golson. But the thing is,
the duel,
that you're right. Mm-hmm. She was not given the chance. I would have given her a little more time to kind of like prove herself a little bit. She could have made up for some past mistakes. And maybe that school bus debacle, is not her fault. Not all her fault, I should say.
Yeah, I think the communication was the issue.
Yeah.
She's not a strong suit.
And she had a tough go at it. The crowd in Hean wanted the other woman. I kind of wanted Gary Highsmith that particular night that the vote took place for Burks. The mayor wanted Burks, I believe.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Twisted arm.
There was no doubt about it. And wasn't she, like, on the board at that present time, Mayor Harp? And, I just think they could have given her more time.
Yeah, I do too.
I would have thought about it.
They shouldn't have brought her, but they should give her time when they brought her.
But, you get one group of people that may be about ready to blast that Board of Ed. And aren't a couple of wasn't Darnell up for re-election this year?
Yeah, but no one's challenged.
But the woman dropped out. Yeah.
So Harry Joseph, what did you think about this whole Carol Burks thing? You followed it all along. What did you think in the end?
Well, listening to Bob right now, it sounds like maybe another reason not to vote for Tony Hart. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's not start, Mr. Republican.
I didn't say that. I was just saying Bob implied that. Anyway, so I think she never had a chance, right? So everybody's to blame. Everybody gets a piece of the blame.
Pox on all the houses.
That's right, because nobody really gave her a chance to do her job.
Now, does that include WNHH-FM that you're listening to right now? Your home for community radio, 103.5 FM, live stream New Haven and Bend.org. We're doing part one of today's show, commenting on the commenters of Bob McCormick, legendary New Haven radio news personality, and Harry Jones, our station manager.
I got one more question about Dr. Burks. Isn't she hanging around for a little while longer?
Well, she gets paid as quota consultant, meaning that she pretends she might make a phone call one day, but no one's going to answer. She's not allowed in the building.
Really?
Yeah, she's not in the building. She hasn't been in the building.
Wow.
All right, next story. Continue with education. 2 protests in one night about the role of Latinos in New Haven public schools. People didn't realize this. A lot of people didn't realize this, that the biggest group of students in New Haven schools are now Latino.
Oh, wow.
There are plurality at 47%.
Are you serious? Are you serious, Paul? This is the thing, that a lot of people are oblivious to what's right in front of their
Everyone was
face.
oblivious who wasn't Latino. 47%. Shocked everyone last year, and they projected within a few years well over 50%. So there were 2 protests in one night. Board of Ed now has only 1 Latino member on it, had a 7 in a school system with half Latino, and the person nominated, who everyone respects, by the way, Larry Conaway.
Yeah.
He's African-American.
I didn't understand that.
The point was saying it's not about Larry Conaway. They think there needs to be another Latino. And the same night, that was at the Board of Alders when they have to approve his nomination, the Board of Ed. At a Board of Ed meeting, the only Latino member was in tears and marched out because she said, everyone you hire to try to do outreach, in this case for a position from the magnet school, can't even speak Spanish, let alone be Latino. So why are we saying yes to this stuff? So what do people say about those 2 protests? Bob, why don't you start with JO3Y1948? I think that means Joey, but we'll see.
As a youngster growing up in New Haven and attending schools, like myself, I can attest to the importance of students seeing their teachers as role models, including having teachers who look like them and share a common culture. My first teacher, who was an Italian-American just like me, was in the 6th grade. She was a role model for me. She took an interest in me as a person, having one-on-one talks to encourage me to do better. She built a trusting relationship with my family. She motivated me to strive to do my best, and she treated every student as they were her own children. I revere memories of her to this day and credit her for my decision to get a college education. I am not saying that those teachers who didn't share my culture were not good teachers. Some were not. Having one teacher whose name ended in a vowel and spoke Italian was a positive turning point for me. Yes, students need to have teachers who look like them and share a common culture.
What did Heather C. write in the New Haven Independent, Harry, about this article?
I attended school in New Haven in the 70s and 80s. I had good teachers and bad teachers of all colors and ethnicities. I also volunteered for a while in the school system. I met principals who were black and white. A great educator is a great educator, but as a white kid in the system, it was important for me to see. In the system, it was important for me to see black and Hispanic teachers and principals. It was even more important to my black and Hispanic classmates. But what was more important was educators who were wonderful, well-educated, passionate about their jobs, and who loved their students and fought for them to succeed. Some of my favorite teachers, Evelyn Mays, Gail Billingsley, Gail Staggers, Karen Wolf, favorite principals, Miss Gaddison, Miss Jeffy Frazier, they left me lasting impressions and helped me form my idea of what great educator was and could be.
John Toulon writes, by the way, John Toulon was the alias of Lenin when he was traveling back and forth in Russia right before the revolution. No, Lenin, V.I. Lenin, the revolutionary leader. This guy's actually a high school teacher, and he taught me that. Mm-hmm. It is outrageous, he writes, that Larry, a person of color, but not the right color apparently, would not be considered qualified by some after spending many decades, in all caps, working with New Haven's Hispanic students at Cross, no less, the school with one of the highest percentage of Hispanic students. Identity politics can lift up, but can also drag down. Sorry, after all your many years of service, that anyone would question your qualifications, Larry. Can we skip ahead, Bob, to positively 1980?
Well, I wanted to read a comment here by John Toulon.
That's the one I just read.
Oh, that is the one you just read. I'm sorry.
No problem. Next page, halfway. Positive Love, 1980.
As a black person, I get it. The Latinos want representation that mirrors their numbers. That's fair. But why make the protest about Larry Conaway? I'm sure he and his supporters recognize their concerns and will do whatever it takes to accommodate such concerns. Why so, public?
Harry, can you go down to a Latino reader's comment, Residente?
Oh, Residente. When Latinos demand equity, it's called an act of racism. When African Americans yell racism, it's a call for equity. So what is it? This isn't about Mr. Conaway or the color of his skin. No one at the meeting disparaged him in any way. Quite the opposite. Everyone acknowledged his qualifications, but made the case for equal representation. This is all the mayor's doing. Nepotism, cronyism is destroying New Haven school system.
Okay, so Harry, you're Latino.
What?
How do you feel as a Latino person hearing this debate? Because as a white person, what I'm hearing is African Americans and Latinos are always convinced the other group is getting more of the goodies rather than uniting against a common enemy.
Here's the thing. There's no doubt, right, that when you go black and brown, brown is never represented equally. Ever represented equally. It's always black and brown, but black gets most of the resources.
And yet, Harry, as a conservative, you don't believe people should be picked based on their skin color, right? So does that mean you're for Larry Conaway?
No. Hold on. This is the thing. Apples and oranges, Paul. In your system where you do have this identity politics game that you play, right? In the Democrats, so not Paul Bass's system, but the system Paul loves, right? So in that game where you're playing identity politics, then you have to give the Latinos.
Singers, if that's the game played fair,
which you guys are actually bringing more Latinos in, right? So the population level is going to keep growing, and you guys just want to keep them all gardeners.
Oh, wait, don't say that. That's not nice.
That's the truth.
Paul,
it's the truth.
I've never felt that way. I never hired a gardener.
Not you,
I make more
Paul, but the system, right?
Okay, Bob, what do you think about this?
How many kids are in the New Haven schools?
Around 20,000, a little more than 20,000.
A little more, okay.
22,000.
We're tending now to forget about the kids and focus on issues like this. Not to say it's not an important issue, but like my first comment said about the teacher thing, where the teachers took time with the kids. They loved the kids back then. The kids loved them. And what's her name just got just due? Jeffy Frazier. Name a street corner named
right.
after her. Well, we name a school after her. We named one after Obama here in New Haven.
Well, and Miss Tracy, one of the best teachers, my son's second grade teacher, wonderful lady, and she would do a wonderful job being the superintendent. And I just want to say one more thing. I grew up in New York where I wasn't represented at all. It was all black, white, Jewish teachers. My favorite teachers were Mr. Taylor, a black man teaching me science, loved him, and Mr. Shula, a Jewish teacher who everybody hated in the school, but was a great teacher. You don't need to see the person be your same color, your same race to get a good education.
I just want to say I graduated from West Haven High, and it was a speech teacher I had in West Haven that pushed me to being a broadcaster. If that's what you want to do, hey, I'll help you as much as I can. I was like a freshman or a sophomore in high school back then, but that's what I wanted to be. I knew what I wanted to be in life, and the teacher helped me along with that.
All right.
And there are still teachers like that today in the New Haven school system and elsewhere.
Well, thanks for helping us along. I'm sorry I had to cut this short.
Yeah, that's okay.
Thanks for joining us for the first
Dual
half of
show
Dateline New
today.
Haven. That's it. Dual show. Bob McCormick, New Haven radio legend.
Always great to be here.
Harry Drost, the next generation station manager on Dateline New Haven.
I may have a surprise next month for us.
All right. And this is Paul Bass saying, hang tight with us as the Afro-Semitic Experience performs I Wish I Knew What It'd Like to Feel to Be Free. We're going to take a quick interlude, do some musical chairs, and come back with two candidates in Hamden running for office, not as Republicans, not as Democrats, not as Libertarians, not as Bull Moose Party.
The Working Families Party.
Tony
Harp is on the ballot in New Haven.
And
there's some council members in Hamden on it.
By the way, Babs has Tony Harp tomorrow at 10
o'clock on WNA. So hang tight, folks. We'll be right back with you on the rebound. Paul Bass saying thanks for listening.